So, we've come in here, we started to create this. I always recommend, you may or may not agree with this, but I always recommend the first thing you do if you've got a screen like this, even before you do your constraints, is name everything. All right, so I'm going to start here. This will be my text view for the height, so I'm going to call it TV height. All right, the one below it, I'm going to call, it's for the weight. Oh, and it comes back, and again, it says, do you want to refactor everything? Yes, I do. All right, then I want to do the same thing, but this will be TV weight. Again, it's asking me. Maybe that is the advantage of doing it in the XML window, because it doesn't ask you this. I don't know if it automatically does it or not. I'm not sure, but I kind of like this. So, all right. So I've got those two things done now. Then I want to come up to here, and this is edit text. So again, you can call it whatever you want, but this is going to be the one for the height. So I'm just going to call it ET height. ET again for edit text, and again it's asking me about changing it, doing the refactor. And then the one below it, as you probably already guessed, I'm going to call it ET weight. All right, so what's left? Well, we're going to have this text view down here. These are going to be our stats. So the one down here, that's a text view. I'm going to call it TV stats, text view stats. All right. And that one, we're going to get the text out of there soon. But for now, I want to leave it in there. So I've got some kind of a baseline type of thing where I can see it. Again, I could do the tool text, but I'm just going to leave that there. All right, then I'm going to go to my buttons. And it's asking me again, yes, I just refactored it again. Now it's asking me, I'm going to go to my buttons. And instead of button 3, I'm going to call this one BTN calculate. Again, I will tell it to refactor everything. And the next one will be BTN clear. Again, refactor. All right. And it's coming together. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do, and again, the order in which you do what I'm showing you isn't that important, but I think it's important to rename your widgets, which is what these are called again, as soon as possible. All right. So I'm going to come over here, and where I've got my thing for height, I'm just going to change the text in there. But again, I don't want to put it in here. So I'm going to open up my strings file, and I'm going to quickly add a bunch of these things. So I don't know how many I'll need, but I'm going to just make about 4 of them. All right. So my first one, I'm just going to call height. My next one, I'm going to call weight. My next one, I'm going to call calculate. And my last one, I'm going to call clear. And you probably can guess that what's the text that's going in there. Height, and I'll put a colon in there too. You don't have to, but I will. Weight, and do the same thing. Calculate, and since that's going to go in the button, I do not put a colon in there. And finally, clear. All right, I'll leave that up for a minute. So this will be for that text view for the height. This will be the one for the weight. We are going to put in hints, and you'll see why. We'll put hints in the edit text. There's 2 reasons, and you'll see them both in just a minute, okay? You both got that? All right. I'm just going to do a save. You don't have to, but I'm going to do a save all. And I'm going to jump back into my activity main right here. All right. Again, the stuff has not changed. But when I go over here, and I want to get rid of the text that's there. And I want to click over here in my resources, and that's going to be height. So now I choose height over here and click OK. Now I've got height there. Do the same thing over here. Get rid of the text. All right, click over here, and I'm going to choose weight. So now I've got height and weight in here. Again, by no means are these things perfect. Question?
I hit layout validation on the side of mine, and now I've lost
do you have the activity main XML file up? Or did you
I
maybe
do.
change files?
No, I have activity and I just got it, you know, scroll back at this and stuff.
Try hitting it again.
Maybe?
Well, I wish I could tell you. Rendering previews. Oh, that's good. No. Click on it again. I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Because I've never seen that before. According to this, it's in there,
Right.
but it's not showing. So there must be some kind of a visible property or something. But not knowing exactly what you clicked. You want to start over and rebuild it?
No, that's okay. I'll just keep going and see what happens.
Now, what I may want to end up doing here, since you know, again, this isn't perfect, all right, is I'm going to click on height where I am, and I'm going to go over to, I don't want layout. I'm going to go over to the common attributes, and I'm going to find text size. I want to make it a little bit bigger, okay? So I'm going to make the text size for height, and I will in just a second for weight. I'm going to make them 18. Now that's a little easier to read, and I'm going to do the same thing for the weight one. I'm going to make that 18. See this? Now if I want to, I can bold them, etc. I don't care. I already showed you how to bold it. All right. Now the other thing that I do want to do in here is I want to take this and I want to constrain it to the end here. All right. And this one. You're like, well, why you want to do that? Because after I do it, after they're constrained, you can still yank on them and pull them back. So I'm doing that. All right. But they are both constrained that way right now. Okay. All right. So I've got that done. So now I'm going to start working on these two that are right here, these edit texts. All right. So the first thing, I do have ET height. I do have ET weight. So that's good. I've got those done. All right. But I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on this. If you look on the screen here, I'm going to click on this one. I'm going to drag this one over. Come on. All right. And then I'm going to drag it back again because I'm starting to put my own constraints in here. All right. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to click here and I'm going to move it over and then I'm going to yank it back again. All right. Now, that's not looking terrible. It's not perfect, but it's not terrible right now. It's not fully constrained, but it's getting there, for lack of better words. Now, I'm going to click here on the height one, right there, and I'm going to find in here, I'm probably going to have to go down to where it says all attributes, and I'm going to find where it says hint. It's down a ways. And I'm going to type in here between 12 and 96. Okay. And I'm going to put in the one for the weight. And for that, for the hint, I'm going to put in between 1 and 777. Okay. Remember when we had placeholder text in HTML? That's exactly what we're doing right here. All right. Except you might say, well, why didn't you tell us this to begin with? Guess what? That should be in our strings file as well. So let's go back to our strings file. And I'm going to call the first one height hint. Oops. Height underscore hint. And I'm going to say here value between 12 and 96. All right. And then I'm going to take that line and copy it. Paste it in. I'm going to make my weight hint. And I'm going to have it say value between 1 and 777. Those are just the arbitrary constants that we're coming up with. That's all. All right. I like to, whenever I make a change in my strings file, I just am used to saving, so I saved. You both have this? All right. So let's jump back into our activity main file here. And in here, let's get rid of the text under the hint right now. Let's get rid of that. Click over here on our resources and find our hint. There's our height hint. All right. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to remove this one. Click on my resources and put in my weight hint. All right. See that? Now, once we've got it more constrained, if we do run it, it's going to, that'll be in there. And that'll be in gray. You can change the color of the hint text too. I'm going to recommend you don't because it's a real light gray. We might want to change these to black. You can do that. You don't have to, but you might want to do that. I don't know. All right. But it's coming together. Not great, but it's coming together. It's starting to at least. All right. The other thing I want to do is this. I want to constrain this to this. All right. So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to literally just drag it to right there and then let go. All right. I don't know if it even did it or not. It almost looks like it didn't. All right. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. So I've constrained both these. That one did move. This one didn't move when I did it. I don't know why that one's not moving. Well, I'm not sure why that isn't moving, but it's not. All right. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to go back into the XML view because that was a pain. But if you look right here, look at all these constraints we've added. All right. And we've got a thing here too that's called, there's horizontal, there's what are called a bias, which is about how much you want to move it over. You're going to see all this stuff as we go on. There's just too much to throw at you right now, to be honest with you. All right. All right. The next thing I want to do is I want to grab this and I want to change this. You're going to see this change in just a minute. Okay. So with that text view right there, all right, I want to go down and I want to look in my attributes here and I want to find a thing that says lines. That's how many lines long do you want it? By default, it's 1. Does that make sense? But a text view is like the text view is like a text box and a text area that we had in HTML where you can put multiple rows in it. So I'm going to change this to 4. Now watch when I put in a 4 and I hit enter, maybe you could see that it made it wider. All right, and I'm going to move this up just a little bit there because I don't want it to hit into the buttons. All right. And I'm also going to go in, well, I actually want it to be bigger. All right. So I'm going to come back in here, turn that off. And like I said, I'm going to leave the word text view in there right now. That's fine. Let's see. I'm going to change the text size. It's going to be small. I'm just going to change it from, no, I'll leave it at 14. That's okay. I'm just going to leave it there. All right. But I want to come down and I want to find here under declared attributes. Do you see where it's got the width and it's got wrap content right there? Can you see that? I'm up here. All right. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to put in here 200 SP. I'm not sure what it'll look like when we do that. That's about what I wanted. You see the difference? All right. I probably could even make it a little wider, but it's fine the way it is. And I don't care if it's not perfectly centered. I'm just trying to show you a few things, okay? We're probably going to have to make changes to this as we get going. That makes sense to you? All right, but I'm also, this is constrained here and here, but it's not constrained on the top. So I'm going to drag that up. And now I think it is. All right. I'm also going to come to my buttons right here. My buttons aren't constrained at all, and they're not perfect right now, but it's good enough for right now. Okay, but I'm going to take this button here. I'm going to drag it all the way over to the end. Come on. Drag it all the way over to the end. I don't know why it's not going. That one went. There it goes. Now I've got both those there, and it might look strange. I actually want them there for a second, because I'm going to click on the first one, and I'm going to go up into here, if you look on the screen, and I'm going to go up to Layout, and I want to change that, and I'm going to make that 24. In fact, I guess I could even make it 32. And I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to make that one 32. All right? Now I've moved them over. Now this, by no means is this a professional looking interface, but it is, for lack of better words, it's getting there. All right. Now, doesn't matter which one of these I try to constrain, but I'm going to constrain one to the other. So I'm just going to click and there. Now, if I do that, it's starting to move. See that? Because it wants to center these. I don't know if you saw what I just did. All right. I'm going to go undo that, and I'm going to redo it. If I click right here and I drag, it tries to center it. I don't want that. All right, so I've got a bunch of errors here. This is probably going to look terrible when I run it. It may throw stuff all over the place. I don't know. Get that back again to 32 and get this one back to 32 as well. All right. For right now, that's kind of the interface. Again, we can make changes. I'm going to do a file, save all, and I'm getting a bunch of errors here. That's why my guess is when I run this, it's going to throw it all over the screen. And which is okay, which just means we got to make some changes. That's all. All right. Well, I guess we got to make some changes. All right. And that's fine. We'll do that. All right. When you get to this point, then you want to come into code mode and start doing it here and start saying where you want your constraints to be. Now, if I come in here, just so you see this, all right, let's just, so this is our title, and I'll just use the title as an example. All right. If I come in here and I start typing in, or I type in the word constraint, it shows me all the different constraints that I can set. You see that? Now, I'm not going to set any for this, but I just wanted you to see that. So if I wanted to set something, and there's more that aren't even showing here, so I can go down in here. Notice there's quite, I don't know how many there are, 20 maybe? All right, but I can set what I want, and that's one way, if you don't know how something should be set, so to speak, that you can go find it. All right. Okay. Boy, I'm not going to lie to you, this is much uglier than when I did it the other day. And I didn't do hardly anything to it. So this is a surprise to me that it looks as bad as it looks. All right. All right. So with this one, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that. Oops. Now, I don't want them to stay down there. I'm going to drag them up. And I'm going to drag this one up. But if you notice, if you look on the screen right here, now these are constrained. See that? Now I can still drag this one over if I want to, and maybe I do want this. I want that about there, and I want that about there. All right. And again, I'm not going to lie to you and say that I do this perfectly. You can already tell I don't. And what didn't we do yet? Let's go to the first button here. Let's get rid of the text. But before we do that, let's go back into our strings.xml file. Let's add 2 more strings. Oh, we've got them already, right? For calculate and clear. So we've already got those. So why I have to keep doing that. Let's go to our first one. So I'm going to jump back into here. I'm going to click on here. I'm going to get rid of the text. I'm going to click my resource tab that's over here on the side, and I'm going to choose calculate. Then I'm going to do the other one and do the same thing, remove the text, click this little resource thingy here, and choose clear. All right, so now I've got those. Now notice, please look on the screen, I have no constraints for either one of those. You see that? That's what you want. That should mean, you don't have to do this, all right, but that should mean now if I run this, all right, the buttons, well, they sure as hell aren't perfect, but the buttons are at least placed in a correct place, if that makes any sense. All right, well, they're also running together. I don't want that. So I'm going to close my window. I don't know if these are constrained with one another or not, but they're going to be in just a second. So I'm going to click over here. And now they are constrained, but I want there to be some space between them. All right, and I think it'll be the one here, but we'll find out. So I put 24 between them. In fact, I'm going to make that 32. All right. When you start to do this stuff, and to be honest with you, it's been a year since I've done this. It all comes back to you, and you're learning it as I'm relearning it. But it's not that this stuff is hard. It's just different, especially in the morning, because I'm doing C#, where you know how easy it is to paint an interface. You can make a really nice looking one in a matter of seconds. Here, it's a little more finicky, so it takes a little bit more time. Now I've got a little space there. See that? So that's not bad. Again, this by no means am I saying this is perfect. It is so far from perfect. But right now, the two things that I can see that to me look constrained on here are my title and my two buttons. All right. Now, next thing I'm going to try to constrain is this. So why isn't this constrained? Because notice there's a left constraint and a right constraint, but there are no constraints here. See that? Now I can pick either one of these, but I'm just going to try to see if I can constrain it down to here. Now immediately you saw what happened. It flops it right up there. I don't want that. To me, the easiest way to fix that then is to come over here and then change that. Again, I'm going to use 32. You see how it jumped up? All right. So now the only thing that's still here is this warning. And what's the warning? It's telling us, hey, you should use a string resource. But we're going to get rid of that anyway. You with me? We're going to get rid of that. All right. But now this should be constrained. So we're getting there, for lack of better words. All right. Now I'm going to click on here and I want to constrain up to here. See that? But I want there to be some space between here. So this time I'll check 16. All right. So now this is constrained on the bottom, but it's not constrained on the top. It's constrained on the sides, but again, it's getting there. There's some places it's not constrained, is what I'm saying. So what I'm checking for, though, is that hopefully now is constrained. The text view is hopefully now constrained everywhere. All right. I don't know if that's true or not. So I'm going to save, and I'm going to run this again. There's the text view. Again, it's not exactly where you think it would be. I probably made too much room here, okay, because there's 32 pixels there. I probably could have done it with less. And unless I move all this stuff down, I'm not going to have enough room for the rest of it. You can see that already. All right. All I'm trying to show you here, and I'm having you do it with me purposely, is that we can come in here and we can constrain this stuff. Now notice when I'm dragging, see that? See how it's dragging them both together? And this one is not with it. How do I do that? Then I just click over here and I constrain this one to right there. Actually, I think we did it the other way. We did this one there. Now when I move these, they should be moving together and they're not. right? But I am going to take this one and I'm going to move this one down. Just manually move it down so it's almost right on top. And you'll notice if I do that, and if I can choose 8 or whatever, it'll reset it. Okay, so I've got those done. All right, so I've got my statistics done, I've got my 2 buttons done, and I've got my title done, which leaves the rest of this stuff, right? So I'm going to grab this, and I know I'm going to have to drag this down, so I'm going to just do it right now. I'm going to drag this down, and I'm going to drag this down. All right, again, I by no means am I saying to you, hey, this is almost perfect. No, it kind of sucks, but it's going to be better in just a couple minutes. Hopefully it's going to be better in just a couple minutes. All right, so I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to drag down. Or try to drag up. I guess I've already got it here, constrained to drag up. And I'm going to also click on here onto this one. All right. So I want to go here. What's the problem? Well, this one is constrained here. This one is constrained here. These two are not constrained to one another, and this is not constrained going up. Does that make sense? I think I just did that one. I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to bring this down. All right. And I'm going to see if I can constrain these. So again, I'm going to click here, constrain up, just put a little space there, do the same thing here. And again, go down. All right. And you'll notice, so what do we have left now? Well, it looks like these two here and here are not fully constrained. See that? This one, I want to constrain it to right there. All right. And I'll drag it back down. All right. Then, so the height is almost done, it looks like. Well, there's the height. So that one is done. And the weight, I think, is done too. Now, I have no idea what this is going to look like. But the good news is I can always do all this stuff and run it and then know what I have to go back and change. All right, so again, well, that still looks pretty darn poopy, pretty bad. All right, and I can already see stuff that I've got to do. Okay, but what I want to do is rather than you watch me tweak this, I want to go in and write the Java. Okay, and then I'm going to give you the rest of the period to try to pretty it up a little. Does that make sense? And then tomorrow we'll just work on basically just the Java. All right. All right. So I'm going to close this. So we'll get this, but when it runs, it's going to look god awful. Just so you know that. All right. And there are all sorts of, watch the thing yesterday if you didn't watch it already. I know you did. He didn't do it at all like I'm doing it. He went in there into the design mode, and that's the way I should be doing it. But I don't remember all of those different things. So I'm just doing it by hand. And when you do it by hand, that's the results you get. All right. So let's go in and let's bring up our main activity.java file. All right. Now, basically, the onCreate is like main. It isn't main, but you basically use it like you'd use a main. So the first thing that we're going to do, I mean, I've got the comments for this, and I don't care right now about the comments. I care more about writing some code and getting this thing done. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is right here is we're going to create our constants. So I'm going to put a comment here that says declare and initialize global constants. Enter a couple times. And there's about 8 of them, something like that. All right, so I'm right here. And remember how we do constants in Java. Final int, I'm going to have min height, equal, and I'm going to set it equal to 12. And I'll put a comment here, minimum allowable height. Final int max height equal, and I believe I told you this the other day, but I'm just saying it again anyway. These are just arbitrary values. So if you wanted to change it to something else, this is where you change it. All right. Then I want to do the same for the weight. So I want the minimum weight and the maximum weight. Minimum weight will be 1. Maximum weight will be 777. All right. I'm going to have 4 doubles that I put in here. No, not 4 doubles, 3 doubles. First one is min optimal, and I'm going to set that equal to 18.0. And this is the it's not the minimum for an optimal. Let's see. It's actually it's the max optimal. Let's see if it's below 18.5. So we want that to be 18.5. And we're not going to call this min optimal. Yes, we are. If you've got a BMI that's between 18.5 and less than 25, you're of optimal weight. So this is correct. All right. So we're saying here minimum BMI for optimal weight. All right, we're going to put another double in here, and I'm going to call this max over, and we're going to set that equal to 25.0, and that will be overweight is between 25 and less than 30. So instead of max over, we'll call this min over. I'm sorry. All right. So this will be the minimum BMI for overweight. Finally, we'll have one more double, and this will be called min obese. And this will be equal to 30.0. And it is the minimum BMI for obese. I'm also going to create 2 strings here. Final string, and I'm going to call this OOR height. You might have already guessed. The next one will be called OOR weight. And this is going to say out of range height. And we're going to let you know what you did. You either put in something less than 12 or you put in something greater than 96. And then we'll have out of range weight. And that'll mean that either you put in a number that was less than 1 or you put in a number that was greater than 777. Now, I don't want to talk down to either one of you. So I'm asking you this question. Is there anything that's in here that doesn't make sense? You've done BMI enough. You probably are BMI'd out, but it's good to start with something that we all have done before. Now, as we do this first one, we can change this as we go on. We're going to make almost all of our variables are going to be global, just to keep it simple. All right. So we're going to come in here and we're going to declare are global variables. All right, notice I didn't say initialize. We will initialize some of them. All right, but the first two that we're going to make are going to be height text, weight text, and answer text. Do you hear me? Those are, if you look on the screen, this is height text, this is weight text, this is answer text. Does that make sense to both of you? All right. The reason I'm telling you that, the reason that that's important is we have never before defined a variable of type edit text. We are now. So edit text, look on the screen. It's all red. If you get that, look on the screen because I want to be able to show you this. You take your mouse, you put it over this, you hold down on the Alt key, watch up by my import statements here, watch this. So you take your mouse, you put it here, and you do an Alt, Enter. And it says, do you want to import the associated class? Yes, we do. So as soon as I click that, boom, it added import android.widget.edit text. See that? We could have done it manually ourselves, and it would have worked just fine. But you don't always know what that is. All right? So I'm going to call this height text, and I'm not going to give it an initial value. And I'm going to do another edit text. Now notice I don't get the error, and it's going to be weight text. All right. Now, just to show you this, I am going to manually come up and do this one. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to type in import android.widget.text view. So I manually put it in there. And notice when I put it in, it's gray because I don't have any text views yet. Does that make sense to both of you? These are not gray because we already put in that edit text. And you use the bundle with everything you do. All right, so I'm going to come down here. I'll move this up in a second, but I'm going to add text view, and I just call mine answer text. And you'll notice as soon as I do that, now this is not gray anymore. All right, and that was not a gee whiz type of thing, but I just want you to realize what's happening. All right. All right. Now we're going to make another variable. We're going to get another error, and we're going to make a variable. It's of type toast. What a toast is it's going to put a little message on the bottom of the screen. So when they've got something that's out of range, we want to give them that message. All right. So we say toast. You can call it whatever you want. I called mine valid toast. And it does want this to be set to something typically. So I'm going to set it equal to null. All right. And if you want, we can put comments in here. So this holds value in height edit text. This holds the value in the weight edit text. And this holds the value in the answer edit text. Okay? And this will be, for lack of better words, this will hold the error toast. We could have called it error toast too. Not all toasts are for errors. All right. If you want to just, maybe you want to tell the user, maybe, you've got a game that you can play either portrait or landscape. And you tell the user, you want to just let them know, hey, this runs better in landscape. And they're playing portrait. You might want a toast to come up to just tell them that. Now, same kind of thing here. I do my Alt Enter. And notice it automatically, it didn't even, it just put it in. Okay, boom. It didn't even ask me anymore which one. So, all right, so I've got that. Put in a few more of these. Int height. This is going to be a local variable that I'm setting equal to 0. Whatever we end up putting into that text box, this is going to be the integer coefficient of that. Does that make sense? All right. So this will be the actual height in inches. Int weight, I'm going to set equal to 0. That'll be the actual weight in pounds. What else? double, I'm going to call it BMI value. Let's just call it BMI. That's fine. We'll set that equal to 0.0, and this will end up being our calculated BMI. Another another string, or a string that we're going to call status. We're going to set that equal to the empty string. This will be our BMI status, underweight, etc. All right, I'm not going to keep typing, that's enough. And we'll have one more string that's going to hold the result. And again, we'll set that equal to the empty string. All right, and that will be the final result put into the text view or answer text view. I don't know what we called that. That was TV stats. Okay, we could call it TV stats here too if we wanted to. There's no big thing one way or the other. TV stats. There we go. All right, those are all of our variables, all of our constants and all of our variables. Okay, for the amount of code we're going to write, that's a lot of variables and a lot of constants. We're not going to really write that much code. But the first thing that we have to do right now, our program, if you look on the screen, our Java program does not know what anything in here is. It is not associated the XML with the Java code. So that's what we're going to do next. All right. And basically what we're doing is we're setting references, all right, to the variables we did above. So what? For height, for weight, for our answer. That's it. Okay, that's it. So let's do that. So you do that inside of here. Notice what this says. Set content view r.layout.activity_main. Does that sound familiar? That's this file that's right here. That's the activity main that's here. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a blank line in there. You don't have to, but I'm just going to I'll put a comment in here that says set references to class variables declared above. All right. And the way you do this, it's funky. All right. You do something like this. So I want to say height text. So it knows that's this. See how that got purple? All right. So I'm going to say height text equal. You've got to use this thing called find view by ID. And you have to put in there r.id.edit text height, which is what we call this. Let me put them in. I'm going to put in the next 4 lines of code. And after we do, we'll take a couple minutes and we'll go over all of them. What does, oh, remember I didn't call it that. I called it ET height. There you go. All right, so there's my height text. This will be my weight text. I've got to do my answer text. Now, if you use different names than I did, I don't care, but you're going to have to change them on here. Height, ET weight, ET, did you call it result? No. Status? What the hell was it? Sorry. All right, I put the answer in here. TV stats. There you go. And then finally, all right. So I'll give you a second. Let me know when you got that put in. I'm going to go till about 2:15 and we'll take another break. You caught up? Are you caught up, Keegan? All right. This says R means resource file. It means go over to the res file. And underneath there, find something with an ID of ET height from activity main. Take that, and using that ID, it says in code, we're going to refer to it as height text. And then it says the same thing for the weight and the same thing for the status. Does all that make sense? Then this, when we did this in C#, we just called the focus event. Here it's request focus. So this just says when the program starts, our cursor should be by the height text. That makes sense? All right. So that's the first thing. Now, I'm going to show you what I consider to be the easiest way of doing this. What we want to have happen, all right, what we want to have happen is when we click this, we want to run a routine called calculate BMI. When we run this, we want to run a routine called clear. Does that make sense to both of you? Now think about what we want to have happen. When we call clear, we want this to clear, we want this to clear, we want this to clear, and we want our cursor to go back here. Does that make sense? Guess what? You just wrote that. Those are the 4 lines you just wrote. So we're going to write a routine to do that, and then instead of having those 4 lines, we're going to move them down to a routine, and then we're going to call that routine right there. Does that make sense? And in here, it's pretty simple. We want to take this, and using that BMI formula, we want to calculate the BMI. All right? Well, the reason I'm telling you all that is when I go back in here, and I go into here, you can do it 2 ways. Look on the screen, please. I'm going to do it both ways just so you see both. I'm going to keep going down. This is alphabetized. Do you see when I go down far enough? Do you see it's got something called on click? See this? I'm going to say, so for this one, I'm going to, under on click, I'm going to type in here, calculate BMI, just like this. The little calculate in lowercase, BMI in big case. Now, it ain't going to work when I click the button. The program will crash because we don't have anything called that. Does that make sense to both of you? All right, so that's the first way of doing it. You with me? I'm going to hit enter. Now notice when I go back here into code mode and I go to my first button, see what it put in? And it made it red because it doesn't exist yet. All right? So I'm now to show you the other way I can do it. They got it right after the layout margin, so I'll put it here. And I'm going to type in on click, and notice it shows me Android on click. So I'm going to click on there, double click on it, boom, and now I'm going to put clear. Again, it's red because we haven't written it yet. With me? All right. I'm going to jump back then into design mode, and I'm here, and I'm going to see, look, sure enough, on click. See that? The other thing that you can do, there's 2 other things, but I'm going to mention the other one to you right now. If we had written the code first, you're with me now, right? If we had written the code first, look on the screen. Then we could have clicked here, and we could have chosen it from there. See that? It would have shown us the routines that we wrote. The way I showed you, I think, is the easiest way of doing this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's the easiest way. All right, so let's keep going here. Jumping back into my main activity file. And now we're going to start writing. All right. The first one to write, I mean, the ones that what you write and the order in which you do these is up to you, but I'm going to write the clear one first because it's easier. All right. Literally, there's about 4 or 5 lines of code in there. So I want to make sure I'm outside of on create. Don't do it in on create. That makes no sense. It's another routine. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in public void, and I'm going to call it clear. It has to be called the same thing that it was called before. All right. Now I'm going to ask you a question. I may have mentioned this when you were here, but it was said yesterday. You did hear it. Everything that's in here, everything that you do is part of a view. So your screen is a view, every control you put on the screen is a view, etc. Okay? So quite often when you do these, you will end up putting in here view, like this. This is the view class. This is what we're calling it. All right, and notice it's red again. So again, it says, now it just says, do you want to import the class directly? I click boom, and it brought in Android view. And if you didn't notice, it put them all in alphabetic order for me too, which I like. All right. So guess what? We already have that code, right? Didn't we do that up here? See this? Didn't we do this? All right. No, not, where was it? Not there. I thought we did it before. Maybe we didn't. All right. We're doing it now. That's fine. So we want to say height text. What did we call this thing? Sorry, we want to clear this, we want to clear this, and we want to clear this. You with me? So this is called ET height, this is called ET weight, this is called TV stats. So those are the ones we want to change. All right. So ET height dot set text to nothing. Now it's going to give me an error. We'll fix it in just a second. Okay, and it's saying, what's it telling us here? It's, oh, come on, I want you to give me an error. It says, cannot resolve symbol ET height. Why not? All right, believe it or not, I purposely made a mistake, because look, we're telling it, we don't call it ET height anymore, we call it height text, right? So what we want to put there is not ET height, it's height text dot set text. So that's going to take what's in that edit text area and clear it out. Does that make sense? All right, I'm just going to copy it. Why? Because I want to do the same thing with weight text. And I want to do it one more time with answer text. And then finally, I want to request the focus, just like we did here. And it was different code. I said before we could recall this. No, it's different code. Isn't that really similar to two things? First, it's similar to what we did in C#, but it also is using a built-in set method. That's why we went over setters and getters. All right. Guess what? If we already had text in there and we wanted to grab it and put it into a variable, we'd use getText. All right. So my question to you is, what we did right there, does that make sense? All right. Then let's go write the other one, because there's more code in the other one. We could try to go in and just basically write in here, just write, do the formula. You know, but the problem is, what if they put in numbers that are out of range? We're not handling that. All right. So we've got our clear. Probably should write a little comment here that says, method called when clear button is clicked. Okay. And again, the order in which you put these doesn't matter. I'm going to put my calculate BMI down here, and we called it public. Is this returning anything? I don't think so. Void calculate BMI. Now what you should notice is if I jump back into my activity main and I go into design mode, sorry, code mode. All right. Oh, this was called calculate BMI. I don't know if I called it the same thing. I'm going to go double check. But do you see how, where is it? Where's the other button? There it is. Do you see how in the on click clear, since we've got a routine called clear, it's no longer red? See that? This one is, so I may have done it differently. So let me grab it from there and come back into my file here. Looks to me like it's the same, but all right. So we're going to write our code now to calculate the BMI. Now think about what we want to do. Imagine that this actually looked like this when we ran it, okay? So imagine it looked like this. We want to grab this value and we want to grab this value. Does that make sense to both of you? However, do you remember anything that you put into a text area? It's a string. So the first thing we want to do is we want to convert it. All right, we want to convert it so that it's an integer, okay? Because that's what we're expecting it to be when we do the formula. So I'm going to come in here, and we're not doing any error handling in this one, just so you know, other than checking it for max and minimum. So I'm going to come in here and say height, not height text, height equals integer dot parse int of, and this is ugly, height text dot get text dot toString. Oops, get rid of that. Semicolon. And we're going to do the exact same thing for the weight. So that is saying grab both of those values that we put into those edit text fields, grab both values that are in there and convert them into integers and store them into those variables. Does that make sense to both of you? Now, since there is no error checking, now I cannot go in. Remember, the way that we set these fields up, their number decimal, I can't put in hello. The only way that I can make this program fail now when we get done will be to put nothing in there whatsoever into height or weight. Then the program will blow up. All right. But now we have to do our validation. So height validation. Validation. Good. So if the height is less than the min height, why it does that? I must be hitting this harder than I think I am. Or the height is greater than the max height. Well, if that's the case, and this should make sense to both of you, we put it in invalid height. That makes sense? All right. So what we're going to do is we want to print that little message on the bottom of the screen. Please look up on the screen. We want this to print. We want that to print. It's called OOR height, and we were using a toast to do that that's called valid toast. So the way that we do that is we type in valid toast dot make text this, I got to learn to spell, make text this OOR height toast dot length long, and I'm going to show you two ways of doing this, okay? And I'm going to have you put this one in, so please put this one in, but then we're going to change it. It's a very simple change we're going to make. All right. So what is it? Valid dot show. All right. So this in English is saying if we put in an invalid height, show that toast. And there is a short and a long. The long is about 5 seconds. The short's about 2 seconds. There probably is a way you can go in and put in a number in milliseconds too. I just never look for it. I just use the long or the short. All right. So we've got that. Now, you can even do it easier than this. And what I mean is you can chain. So we can say this, we can do all this stuff that we have here, and we can put on the end of this dot show. And if we do that, we don't need this line. So you can do it either way. I would recommend doing it this way because it's more compact. If we put in a bad height, we want to show the toast, and then we just want to return. We don't want to figure out the BMI because it's bad. But now that I think about it, guess what? We don't want to just return, do we? Don't we want to say, well, let's see. How about height text dot set text? And how about if we clear that out? And how about if we set the focus there? Oh, it's request, not set. Request focus. My question to you is, do you both understand what we're doing here? The key thing is we're just returning. And I made it a void because there's nothing to return. It was junk. So now I'm going to grab the entire thing that we just put in for the height, everything, and I'm going to put it in again, but I'm going to now say weight validation, and I'm changing all these H's to W's. If you miss any, you'll know right away. I think I've got them all. If we get down to this point right here, if we get to this point, we have a valid height and we have a valid weight. We know that because if we didn't, it would have caught it in one of the other two things that we just put in here. So now we can just do our BMI calculation. So BMI equals weight divided by math.pow height 2 paren times 703.0. So that should give us, that's the formula for BMI. That should give us our BMI. All right. Let's, it's 2:19, so let's take a 10-minute break till 2:30. We're going to come back. We don't have a lot more code to write, but a little more. And I'm going to give you the rest of the period. I'm going to try to clean mine up so my interface looks right, and you can do the same. All right.